So joining us
Back here.
now is trucker lawyer Keith Wilson. Hey, Keith, thanks for coming on the show. I am dying to pick your brain about some of the stuff that we've heard from these OPP superintendents about the chaos and disrespect of Chief Slowly. It sounds like at some point he started to get pretty paranoid that people in the ministry, and I don't know which ministry they're referring to, and I'm not quite sure it matters, but he said that people were basically out to get him, that they wanted him to fail. I don't know how true that is, but I think it led to just the chaos in OPS, and it sounds like OPP just sort of walked into a nightmare and tried their best to do their best job at policing without a plan whatsoever. What was your experience in dealing with OPS? Was it as chaotic as it sounds?
It was very linear, and it was very black and white. What I mean by that is I would get a phone call from the lead police liaisons every 30 minutes to every hour after the first couple of days that I was here. And it was constant. It would start early in the morning, as early as 6 or 7 in the morning. You get your last call at midnight or so. And they were not, it's amazing to sit there and listen to these senior police people testify when I was on the ground with the organic leaders of the freedom movement at every moment. And you're just sitting there going, this is outrageous. That is not what happened at all. So, we were the typical phone call that I would get from the lead police liaison representative would be, Keith, what's the exit strategy? That was the question they asked us all the time. And just for fun, about every 4 or 5 times, I'd say, Sergeant, I've got great news. The leaders have come up with an exit strategy. And he'd say, what's that? And I'd say, remove all mandates and they leave. And he'd go, oh.
Pretty simple.
So it was really simple. What's remarkable, though, and we're all experiencing it, I thought I was coming to a public inquiry, and I feel like I've tuned into a new soap opera on Netflix that I'm binge watching. It's just remarkable. Yeah. How dysfunctional the personalities and egos, the lack of organization. Some of the leaders who are in the room in the inquiry joked today when they were talking about, the police were talking about the challenges they had getting food and supplies. And one of the leaders, who I won't name, whispered in my ear, she said, they should have asked us. We would have fixed them up real quick.
I made the same joke. I said, you should ask the truckers. They had food and supply chains.
We would have had them all fixed up. Like, what do you guys want? You want bacon and eggs? We would have had it. Barbecue? Just let us know. So, yeah, it was amazing. And now I understand. We never understood while we were here, Sheila, and even subsequent, why we'd hear senior government officials say that the Freedom Convoy is extremely organized. The leaders are organized. And we didn't think we were that organized, but we now know what they were comparing it to themselves. Total chaos and dysfunction.
All things being relative, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. Like they said at one point, and maybe we can find that clip, Olivia, if you wouldn't mind, there weren't enough food and supplies for the OPP officers that the OPS were demanding to come into town. At one point, they wanted 400, then they wanted 800. They didn't even have enough food and beds for the ones that they had, but they just kept demanding that they come into town. OPP kept telling them, you got to pump the brakes. We can't bring in all these people and not know what to do with them. But yeah, no wonder they were so shocked that the truckers had these supply chains. They could not only get food to themselves, but then start feeding the homeless. They had these supply chains to bring in food, fuel, and wood, and basically created a society in downtown Ottawa.
Absolutely.
In the span of a couple of weeks. And the police, they didn't even know, they couldn't even talk to each other, it sounded like.
Well, that was the problem when we were trying to do the mayor's deal, when we were implementing it, is the communications were incredible. They had no ability to communicate with themselves. We had, in fact, police reaching out to us. I get phone calls from senior, like mid-range on the ground senior police, not the guys in the HQ, saying, Keith, what's going on? So they would say thank you, and then they get on their radios and say, yeah, the truckers just told us what's happening. Like, it was remarkable how badly it's coming out that they handled this. But remember, let's keep our eye on the target here. Have we received any evidence? And I shouldn't laugh, but I only laugh because it's so ridiculous. Have we seen one stitch of evidence, one little minuscule drop of evidence that any of the criteria required under the Emergencies Act to use the nuclear weapon of government power over Canadians' rights was justified?
Right.
And the answer is absolutely nothing.
We had minor issues with supporters on the roadside on the 417 getting kind of dangerously close to the side of the highway, which was a concern, but that wasn't Convoy. The Convoy participants couldn't control that. They did what they said they would do. They didn't damage any highways. They didn't cause any criminality. So from that perspective, it was a success in getting them into the city of Ottawa.
That's one of the things that fascinates me the most since the beginning of the commission, how people have such different testimonies from one another. Catherine McKenna, you're going to hear her basically talk about it, just like Zegzili, how the convoy was like the purge. The whole war was going to end in 2 months if we didn't have the Emergencies Act. And then we have this gentleman right here who says that the truckers were peaceful, that he's not aware of any charges that had been laid when entering the city. On the contrary, you have Matthew Fleury who talks about microaggressions as they're the worst things in the world, the worst than authoritarian COVID-19 mandates. Everyone seems to have a different version of the story. It's unbelievable how that's allowed.
Well, but there is a common theme developing, and that is anybody who's in an official salaried capacity seems to be
that's true
describing things in less than dramatic terms and oftentimes with more accuracy and truth, whereas those who are holding political office are just filled with hyperbole and sensationalism and, revealing a heavy snowflake tendency for sure.